Hey everyone, I just got out of our latest Good Morning L&D recording and it's been amazing. We had two guests who brought so much knowledge and so much experience. On the one side, Anne-Sophie, she's working for the Bersin company, and on the other hand side, Martin, who's the Chief Learning Officer at Boehringer Ingelheim. And those two brought the latest report from the Bersin company on corporate learning. And just to give you one little sneak preview of an insight that we discussed, every year, companies worldwide are investing 400 billion in corporate learning, while at the same time, staggering 74% of companies say that they are not having the right skills ready for the future. And this is a massive gap, right? That shows the room for improvement for L&D teams, but also the need for L&D teams to go new ways. If you're now interested, listen in. I can promise you a lot of insights, a lot of learning. At some points, Anne-Sophie will be referring to slides. And if you know the Bersin company, you know they always bring slides. But don't worry, you can see the slides in the management summary, and the management summary you can find in the session description, a link. Enjoy the session, and I'm looking forward to your feedback. So it's really cool to have you both here. And just to kick off the discussion, I mean, Anne-Sophie, when you first read these numbers that I just said, it's part of your report. What was going through your mind? Was this surprising to you, or was this somehow something you already expected?
Yes, that's a great insight and great number from our new L&D research by Jos Bludsen and Jordan Hemmerstedt. And it was surprising for me too. So 74% of organizations not having an effective building in place of the skills and the capabilities they need for the future. And the business strategy, to me, that is a business problem. So it's a great global research. We did it based on 800 organizations in 60 countries. And 100 evidence-based practices and even interviews. So it's really an impressive number to see. And the opportunity to also close the gap. And happily with AI, there are also opportunities to make it more aligned to the business needs.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into the report, but also in the opportunity on AI today, definitely with some time. But before that, Martin, I mean, you now heard this number. Is this also surprising to you? Or, I mean, you have been now in the L&D field for quite some years. Is that rather making a point or underlining a point that you have seen also some years ago?
First of all, thanks for having me. And, well, you know, when you look at this number, it clearly tells 2 to 3 stories. One is learning efficiency, right? So if businesses believe they're investing a lot of money, and they know, of course, what they're investing, but they're not sure how that they invested it in the right topics, skills, and something like that, there is something that need to be fixed on the, you know, pure efficiency, vendor management kind of side of things. That's one thing. But probably the more important one is the alignment with company strategy, right? So once you realize, or once you help business leaders to realize how L&D can actually help them to achieve their business goals, how L&D is aligned to their business strategies, you know, this number would drastically basically change. So it shows to me that there is still room for improvement in L&D functions, and that is also what I'm seeing in many cases, or have been seeing. That there is room for improvement for L&D functions to align what they're doing very closely, link it to business strategies.
Yeah, and I think this was also one of your focus points for the last years, right, in your role as a Chief Learning Officer. And we're super curious to hear maybe some of your best practices from that time as well. But before we go into that, I would really love to take a closer look to this report. And I'm very happy, Anne-Sophie, that you can share with us some first-hand insights. I think the report just was published, I think, last week. And we have it here today, and you brought it with you. So guide us maybe through some of the key takeaways that were really striking to you.
Yes, thank you. It is a pleasure to share this fresh new research insights with you today. And what's shaping this call to action for L&D teams today is, as we know, Just can summarize it best. AI has created these new opportunities for personal productivity and enterprise productivity. And L&D is a major player in this redesign of work because of all the reskilling efforts that are required to it. So what we say for decades, corporate learning was formal, centralized, and course-based. But today's world moves at a very, very different pace. And AI enables now a new approach for learning needs analysis in real time. It also allows for hyper-personalization, hyper-contextualization, actually at the moment of need. So our research shows that the most successful organizations are converging knowledge, skills of knowledge, learning and work, and they go above the publishing model. So it's time for a new dynamic, hyper-personalized focus on the enablement of the workforce, and this is what we call dynamic enablement. And we speak with thousands of our HR organizations about the challenges and the opportunities, and we have identified 5% of the organizations, including in Europe, are on this dynamic enablement maturity, and we have many best practices shared. Maybe nice also to go to where are we coming from in the evolution slide. So many of you will, as L&D professionals, will recognize the reference on these slides. But I would like to focus on the transition between learning in the flow of work and dynamic learning everywhere. I think as of the 2020s, we focused on integrating learning in daily tasks. We were about creating role-based learning path, and we implemented LXPs to provide employees with a good learning experience. I think all known concepts for all of you, but today we are in the age of dynamic learning everywhere. And this era is marked by speed to market, hyper-personalization, and adaptability, which is now possible through AI. So learning content can be delivered in any language of preferences, highly contextualized, and what we see in learning organizations, let's say ahead of the curve, they deliver knowledge and content with more faster and with more precision. Laser focus on the business problems and constantly adjusting their skilling priorities. When we move to the learning formats, we see also different opportunities here about AI-driven simulation exercises, a digital tutor, which is now available for all employees in the organization. And you see the milestones in the bottom of the slide. AI is one of them, but AI is bigger than the arrival of the LMS. It's bigger than the LXP. So 5 to 10 years from now, we are going to talk about L&D before and L&D after AI. Just because without AI, L&D cannot keep up with the rapid change. So we have this unlocked new level of maturity, and we're seeing the rise of the AI-first learning organizations, because in the work of L&D, we can also reimagine how the work is done. So we move away from the publishing model in the old ways of working, let's say, build a course first, and then hope people will need it later. And in a new model, it is about create the learning when people need it, where they need it, and also precisely what they need. So this is where we can now have an opportunity to have this hyper-personalization on scale, which was not possible before. L&D teams will operate as consultants and not as content factories, and AI will provide everyone the opportunity to create learning content, not only the L&D team. So the ones who are most closest to the work, so the subject matter experts, will also provide this learning creation on your behalf. Maybe just to give a nice example from a food delivery organization in the Middle East. What they did is that they have evolved their L&D teams to be in cross-functional squads, and they come together to address the company objectives and the priorities, and they shifted to a consulting role. And in this example, they help the sales team to visualize the learning experience, identify the focus areas, and providing a blueprint for the learning design. The sales function itself went ahead and created a sales capability academy with an AI-first learning platform. So basically, the SMEs, the subject matter experts, translate their day-to-day experience in their work to upskilling moments for others. And this also captured the tacit knowledge into shared capability building. Then if we move towards today, in the next slide, you see some, I think, great data points that we'll definitely will have a conversation around, I guess. But to introduce it a bit, industries, processes, and tasks are being disruptive, but only 26% of the companies are building those skills they need to support their business strategy. And as said before, to me, that's a business problem. Also, less than 10% have an AI strategy in place for learning. So most L&D teams are unprepared at this point in time. To me, even more concerning is 94% of the companies who are not creating a career path for emerging AI-augmented roles leaving the workforce unprepared for the AI enterprise transformation. When talking with many learning leaders around the world, we see recurring challenges they face. So the weak alignment of the business strategy, we also addressed already in this conversation. Do not have enough people, resources, technology is outdated, cannot connect the skills to the tasks and roles, and we can't prove our business impact. And with this investment of $400 billion a year, we see that also a lot goes to legacy platforms, legacy contents, and legacy operations. Taking it forward to our maturity model. So let me first introduce, I don't know for whom of you who does not seen a maturity model before, we map those in 4 layers, from less mature on level 1, the most mature on level 4. And I will quickly just align on those. If we start on level 1, you see static training. So that's most reactive, compliance focused, standardized training, often in a classroom, and learning is actually seen as a separate activity from work. When we move up to skilled learning, in this level, the access to learning is in place across the organization. Different ways of learning, different formats, and it's accessible through a digital platform. The self-directed learning is being encouraged. 76% of organizations are on those 2 levels of maturity. When we move to level 3, you see the integrated development, and that is aligned to learning in the flow of work. So the L&D team is partnering with the business between HR teams and having this business-driven learning portfolio in place, and informal learning is encouraged. These are actually the world-class traditional learning organizations. At this point in time, we see 5% of the organizations moving to the dynamic enablement, level 4. And although all organizations on each of these stages of the learning maturity can benefit of an AI native platform, level 4 has also a learning first, an AI first learning strategy, an AI first learning operating model, and a culture of learning, growth, and knowledge sharing. So AI first platforms are essential, but not the finish line. Then deep diving a bit on why level 4 matters. Well, as you all recognize, probably we see this rapid problem solving. Level 4 organizations can quickly respond, and that is critical in the age of AI. They drive business performance, and learning is aligned to real-time business needs. So we will see this dynamic learning capturing the tested knowledge in a flow of work. Informal learning that does not happen in a course is now possible with dynamic enablement. To give an example on tested knowledge in a frontline organization, is that we have frontline workers these days to have a conversation or a chat, maybe on their phones, with their colleagues around a workaround or troubleshooting a specific problem. Like just take, do you have any kind of tips or advice to fix machine A, B, or C? AI can capture this conversation, analyze, and also create the learning content so that can be shared with their colleagues and that can be taken forward in capturing this information. So it is a centralized learning operating model is history. There's no one fits all, but it will definitely not be a centralized learning operating model that we see in the future. Creating new learning content and new learning materials with an AI-first learning platform is actually mind-blowing. So we have, for example, Galileo Learn, our learning platform. We are now able to create a new course in a day as soon as we have a new research article published. It took months. So this is the AI difference. Then the learning data, I think that is where you're looking for also to see what is the opportunity when you move to a dynamic enablement organization. You see this slide capturing a lot of data, and I would like to highlight a couple of them. What we do in our research is that we map out the business outcomes, the people outcomes, and the innovation outcomes of becoming level 4 in the maturity model. So basically, learning organizations that embrace this dynamic enablement, they innovate more. And across borders, industries, companies are more likely to meet their financial targets when they embrace this AI-first model for L&D. Couple of things that I would like to call out is 6 times more likely to have skills needed to execute their business strategy, 10 times more likely to innovate effectively, 28 times more likely to have highly empowered employees. That is huge to me. And likely you will think, well, that cost me now 5 times more, but our research also shown that level 2, 3, and 4 have a spending plateau. So maturity advancement is driven by the budget reallocation. I will pause a second here for some.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, first of all, to have this kind of structure and also the data and the numbers behind, and I think I'm just putting myself into the shoes of Martin and asking myself, okay, so if you think as a chief learning officer about all that, right? How do you use that in your daily work? I mean, this maturity model, of course, helps to give orientation to you, to the team. And maybe you can help us a little bit with your journey also in this chief learning officer role back then, once you started, which was maybe the level you started the journey with, and where do you see Boehringer Ingelheim right now? And how did you basically move from one kind of maturity level to the next?
That's a lot of questions, Moritz. Let's see if I can respond to some of them at least. First of all, when looking at this data, what I can clearly state is I would love to meet those 5% on the highest level. First of all, because there's a lot to learn from those companies. Certainly, right now at Boehringer Ingelheim, I believe I can state that we are on the level below the fourth. That should be the third level. Yes, third level.
Yeah.
And we worked our way up there. Now you ask, like, how did we get there? Well, we first, when we initiated what we call we have a name for our central or for our learning and development approach. We built this actually. We started to build this only 4 years ago for this company. Before that, we had a totally decentralized approach, which is nothing unnormal. Basically, it's just happening. Learning is happening and had happened also before everywhere in the business where it was needed. So we call this learning islands basically emerged, right? And when we started to build the Boehringer University, the first thing is to bring all this learning under one roof, which corresponds nicely to, I believe, the second level that we just saw. And bringing this together, making it available to everybody is a big step already. And, let's not forget about that. That was a major impact that we saw also on the cost side of things, because if, everything is available to everybody at all times through a modern LXP platform, that automatically, without taking away anything from anybody, is reducing double spending, for example. So that's also driving the efficiency piece, which as an L&D function, you should always look at. Because there is efficiency to be gained, and we'll talk about this more in a second. So that's the second stage, and bringing it to the third stage is mainly by some companies call it learning consultants. We call them learning partners. In our case, it is members of the central L&D team working closely with the business. And if before that it's, hey, Moritz, employee of Boehringer Ingelheim. Boehringer, your wonderful employer, is offering you an indefinite number of learnings, trainings, opportunities from left to right. What people were telling us is, well, you know what? Can you tell me what to learn? Because, guidance is a thing, and this corresponds nicely to your first number, where companies are spending a lot, but is it guided really? Is it, corresponding with what the business strategy needs, the skills the business needs to succeed? And that's the third level where I believe we are at right now, where because, through these learning partners, we are working with business leaders saying, hey, and we developed tools using AI again. Hey, give us your business goals, give us your business strategies, and we will derive from them the skills, the learning topics you should focus on as a business. And building this bridge in the discussion with business leaders helps drastically to those business leaders to look very differently at L&D. And then you reach the third stage in one way or another by, the business actually asking, hey, L&D team, can you please help me to provide focused, targeted learning, upskilling for my organization. And that's, I believe, the key difference between level 2 and level 3 in this model that we looked at. Now, of course, and then I'll stop more. It's no worries.
Oh, good.
I won't talk forever. Then of course, I loved everything Anne-Sophie was saying. Why is that? Because I feel very well prepared. That's probably a dangerous thought, but I feel very well prepared. We just discussed and presented our. We didn't call it this way, but it would be an AI strategy for learning and development, because we are aiming now for the 4th level. With virtual reality, AI-powered coaches, trainers, whatever you call that, you can do so much more. You can make every L&D person's dream come true that has been around for 10, 20 years easily, namely that learning in the flow of work has been a term forever. Now this, AI makes this dream come true. We can personalize, hyper-personalize is the term for it. Hyper-personalized learning through AI, and that's actually where we are going next. So there is amazing stuff around the corner, and L&D teams should seize the opportunity to show the importance to the business of L&D actually.
Yeah, and I would love to pick up this point with the kind of L&D AI strategies and everything you just were referring to. And at the same time, I want to weave in the first question from the chat, and it's the one from Petra König. I think she's leading the learning and development team at Wieland. It's a typical hidden champion company from Germany, I think world leading when it comes to copper solutions. And she's asking, Anne-Sophie, I'm interested to learn more about frontline best practice, assuming, IT should be available for employees, which is currently not the case, but yeah, it hopefully will be. And I think that's also an interesting thing I observed about Josh and his research, that it is actually focusing a lot on frontline workers these days. And I think it comes also from, the acceptance that automation is somehow working in central functions, but, the people, in the frontline jobs, they are maybe more needed than ever. And there's also then maybe a bigger leverage also when it comes to future learning solutions. But I'm curious about your answer.
Yes, indeed, we have a lot of focus as well on the frontline workforce, because also from the simple fact it's such a big portion of the global workforce in the world. So we have specific research on the frontline. Just to take an example for the development and the skill building of the frontline employees. I think one of the examples I can share of a best practice is an example of the maintenance of a jet engine. So if you would count all the hours that it would require to master this maintenance capabilities, it will take you, let's say, 500 years, a lot. So that's not possible. But AI, you can map this information. This knowledge base is being created. And what this company did is they also provide this back to the workforce, in this example, with the right information exactly on the moment of need. And thereby you are transforming decades of engineering expertise in real time accessible learning experiences. Next to that, what we see, I think also just is kind of predictive for, is that every employee will have an AI in his or her phone. So it will be also so much more easily available for people who have no desktop type of job. So that combination will be a support of the reskilling of your workforce. But don't take it only on the build. Also the retain, the redesign of work, and the different components from a systemic perspective are important to take forward to keep, to make sure you have the best value for your frontline employees.
Nice. Thank you, Anne-Sophie. I hope, Petra, that answered the question. I want to stress this point again. These top 5% in the study, what are they doing differently? And I mean, Martin, you already gave a glimpse, right, in your kind of maturity level, but also what you are doing right now, standing at maybe level 3, going to level 4. You framed it as a kind of first draft AI learning strategy, and I'm super curious to learn more about what's in it and how is the business reacting to it. just give us a little bit more of context here. And then Anne-Sophie, I think you also were focusing in particular on these 5%, right? And you mapped out what they are doing differently. So I'm curious to get some answers here.
Okay, very good. Should I give it a start?
Yeah, sure.
Just commenting also, and this fits very well to what you just talked about. When we think frontline workers, two segments that, up until I would say, coming back to the model level 3 or so, you're having a hard time reaching, not only at Boehringer, everywhere, is frontline workers and customer-facing functions, sales force, field force, right? So those are a little harder to reach with these platforms, and it's just a different audience, basically. So we also look into that, and we strongly believe that AI and, as you said, on meeting them on devices that they are actually using, regularly. That's kind of really in the flow of work, so to say, right? Is how you're winning. And what would that be? Let's just look at that. Any field force has nowadays, God knows, an iPad, iPhone, or whatever device they're using, mobile devices. If we can get on there, and coach them, train them when they need it in a meaningful way, that would be absolutely beautiful. Think of frontline workers. Some of them, at least in our manufacturing, would wear protective glasses, right? And we looked into solutions already. It's very early stage solutions where you could show kind of an augmented reality guidance in those glasses. So even I could operate. Well, I shouldn't probably, but even I could operate a machine, and Moritz, you could, on a basic level, because it tells you, hey, Moritz, turn this to the right, no, to the right, to the left, whatever it is, right? And correct you, monitor you, help you, guide you, correct you, truly in the flow of work. And that's only possible through, going all in on AI in this segment of field force and in this segment of frontline workers. So I believe that is a blessing for L&D, moving into those segments outside of the, compliance kind of trainings that, of course, those people also have to do all the time. But, this makes it very meaningful.
Yeah. Because on the one hand side, it's very futuristic, but at the same time, I think it's a perfect, story that shows, this idea of learning becoming more a business kind of performance support function that, allows an employee to do something he wasn't maybe capable just by, having this AI enabled and in the workflow type of learning. And before we come back to your AI strategy, Martin, I will come back to this for sure. I mean, is that, Anne-Sophie, is that one use case that you saw already happening at those top 5%? I mean, is this kind of futuristic, scenario already reality at some other places maybe in the world?
Maybe to have another example. My camera is off, but
we lost you on the camera, but we can still hear you.
Happy to hear. So what we see in real life is that, for example, a store employee have now also is very local, specialized learning materials available. So where you have from a central perspective, your values, your company, a strategy into an onboarding program. Let's say, take that for example. Your specific region, your specific business area will also provide materials, and your store manager will add learning materials relevant for you. So now you have a learning experience as a new employee in a store somewhere in the world who actually gets really relevant onboarding materials available at the point of need.
If you think about those top 5%, is this kind of one element that stood out for these companies, that they were experimenting and that they were very advanced when it comes to those also kind of futuristic use cases of learning?
Yeah, so one of the most let's say driving elements of what we see happening with our new framework is that the capabilities of the L&D roles are so important. So when we look to the relative impact on the outcomes, we also see that, maybe we can use the slide as well as a reference, is that when we see everyone talking about AI and the technology, the learning capabilities are very highly relevant for the impact on the outcomes. So these capabilities allow also the learning teams to operate with more agility, to partner effectively, and to measure these results. So this is also one very important component of level 4 organizations. And those learning people has the following capabilities. So AI fluency, data literacy, digital fluency, experimental mindset, the learning science, performance consulting, and cross-functional collaboration. So that is also key. The culture, the capabilities, next to having this technology and infrastructure in place.
Wow. I mean, for me, if I read this sounds like a perfect wish list for Christmas, I think, for most chief learning officers and learning and development leaders. But, you know, the question is, how do I get my team there? How do I get my function there? And here I feel, Martin, many L&D teams, they are somehow stuck, right, in all this kind of legacy, you know, portfolios of courses, technologies, and so on. And it's really difficult to move on for most of them, right? Also, because there's this old expectation maybe still in the organization. How did you basically crack that nut with your team and accelerated this change?
Well, that's quite something. I loved what you said. It's like Santa's wish list for, you know, any L&D leader, basically, which is true. But on the other hand side, it's what you need to achieve. What you need to aim for as L&D team, as L&D person, in order to, you know, fully be ready to support the business. The business actually is looking for very, very similar skills, right? So they're aiming at a lot of, there's quite a big overlap, which is also an interesting development. So coming back to this, your question was, how did we tackle this? Well, fun fact, upskilling. You know, we set up very, very early on, also with the Josh Bersin company, and probably Anne-Sophie can talk to that if you want to, you know, programs that upskill L&D people, that upskill HR people everywhere, because, you know, if we want to really, you know, support, enable the business in a true way, we there is no way around this. We saw this, you know, there is the way to level 3, there's the way to level 4, and there is no way around this if you still want to stay relevant as an L&D team, or even increase your relevance, right? So pure upskilling it is. We first of all set up a massive program, upskilling program for everybody in our HR function, actually starting with our global HR leadership, and ran quite a training with them. So every senior leader globally at Boehringer Ingelheim in the HR function now can show you, you know, how to program an AI agent. I believe so far that's pretty unique, I believe, in the HR segment so far. But this is very, very helpful, because that's changing the way HR, L&D is looking at AI, is simply applying this, you know, as a new technology that it technically is, in their day-to-day business, in their way how they set up things. I mentioned earlier, you know, we programmed little agents or so to translate business strategy into upskilling needs, basically. So, you know, making this a natural piece and part of your work. But for that, you need to be upskilled. It's very, very simple. It's not that people simply wake up in the morning and are able to program agents. Some probably are, but majority of people isn't, actually. And we need to appreciate that they require solid upskilling on this.
Yeah, maybe Anne-Sophie, I think you had a big chapter in this report, also mainly talking about this role shift of an L&D function and the skill shift for everyone kind of involved in an L&D team. What would you say are the top 3 kind of changes an L&D function has to focus on to really get this going, this level 3, level 4 of the maturity level? And what are maybe also the things they really have to stop, right? Where you would say this is something, you know, that needs to be stopped and cut, so that there is the time to work and deal with the new.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it will come not as a surprise that the AI fluency, understanding using data, so the technical components are important, but also the human capabilities are crucial. So getting this experimental mindset, performance consulting is also one of the high impact areas on average. So I think that is something to remember. And my call to action actually is then just to get learning. Learning is the direction. We are learning professionals. Get learning yourself. Don't wait. And also try a trusted AI solution to get this experience for yourselves. Because the better you upskill yourself, you'll also be better to consult with the business on the enterprise AI transformation.
And what are the things that you need to let go? What are the things you need to stop? What are the 3 things where you really maybe have to say no, right? Even if the business demands it, in order to have the time, the capacity, but also the money to go into this next maturity level.
Yeah. So personally, I think the rapid pace of change is going so fast. So you can't wait to have everything detailed out in a report, in a blueprint, in design, but just get started. So I think this experimental mindset, also to learn, to grow, and to scale, is an important one. And it means also to let go of having perfection in details until everything is clear. Because at that moment, things have been changed already.
Yeah. Martin, I mean, experimenting is one side of the coin, but I guess not randomly, right? It needs a targeted experimenting also, to meet a certain also business case. And I know that you have been focusing a lot on rethinking also the business case for learning and development at Boehringer Ingelheim. Maybe give us an insight here. How did that go, and where do you see also now, what are the biggest drivers maybe of a change in where you allocate your resources, your money, vendors, and so on and so forth to make that shift happen?
So when we talk about learning so far, we look a lot into effectiveness of learning, right? But also the efficiency piece of this is very, very important. So that's what we looked into right from the start when we created the Boehringer University. What do I mean by that? It's a very untypical part of HR, and it's not, part of HR's natural DNA probably to run vendor management in a segment such as learning. But if you look at it, at least a large scale company, there is a lot of unsteered, unguided spending, and that probably leads to the number that you mentioned at the beginning of this very session, right? And the L&D team needs to play a role in making this not only effective, but also efficient. What do I mean by that? Bringing all learning under one roof was one topic for us, making it available, increasing efficiency, one piece. But it's not only, claiming this. It's you need to know your numbers. You need to own these numbers. And, that's the only way how you can demonstrate at least your contribution to this part of the ROI of learning, right? Because we all agree, is learning a valuable thing? 100%. But how do you measure that? And then, it starts, the whole discussion starts, and I'm sure people have a lot of opinions on this, but the unquestionable piece of that is how much a company is spending on learning. That's something you can measure. And if you can increase learning, or improve learning culture, usage of learning, while decreasing the spend, that's something that is simply appreciated, by the business again, because as an enabling function, you're always viewed as a cost center, of course. And then, you demonstrate that you can also drive efficiency, cost efficiency on the one hand side. But the much more important piece is what I mentioned beforehand, which is once the business understands how L&D can help them to reach and achieve their business strategies, their strategic goals, this becomes a very, very different narrative. Once the business says, I want this L&D, I want more targeted L&D team, please help me delivering all these kind of things. And if you're then able to deliver, I believe that is, the question about ROI fades away to a certain degree.
And I think this brings me also to one of my last questions to also you, Anne-Sophie. What I found really remarkable in the report is how you were talking about the impact of learning. And I think this is this never-ending discussion we see in the learning and development field, right? How do we measure the impact? And of course, many companies are still measuring, the time, spent in learning and learning management systems and so on and so forth. But looking now at this dynamic, enabling, and AI-first learning, I mean, learning will happen not in the LMS any longer, right? And it maybe didn't in the past, just partly. But if you think now in this AI-first learning future, how do companies really measure the business impact, which is needed? Coming back also to Martin's point, to show the business the true impact and the value of a learning function.
Yeah, I love this question. The topic of the ROI of learning is my favorite topic. Nice. For as many of you probably. But indeed, this time where we have now AI, more data, more insights, we see organizations also better finally to measure the business outcomes of learning investments. So indeed, informal learning happens also not always in a course, right? But having that opportunity to create learning content in the flow of work and also measure directly the outcomes gives a lot more opportunity to prove the business impact than it was before AI. So I'm very enthusiastic about these opportunities.
And I know time is running, but can you give us one or two examples where you saw this really happening and also maybe changing the mind of the business on the learning function?
Yeah, I think, we see in most easiest is to look into the sales impact of investing in upskilling sales functions. So referring back to my earlier example where we have the SMEs kind of written out their experience in the daily flow. In this example, they measured the business outcomes and they actually saw them utilizing this AI solution. So from a sales perspective, measuring the increased sales directly from investing in the capabilities of these people.
I would love to go deeper into that. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the session. And therefore, I have a very last question. Some business leaders see a lot of also cost-saving opportunity with AI, also looking to HR and also looking to L&D. And my question to you would be, what is the single bold piece of advice that you would give an L&D leader to not become obsolete also with AI? What would it be? What would be this advice that you would give an L&D leader, to focus on, being back in the office tomorrow, to, not let this AI transformation kind of, go in a different direction as maybe, planned? Who wants to go first?
The lady goes first. Old school.
I will keep it very short, but focus on the business problems. Focus on making sure you have the skills in place. Make sure you're talking about the business problems and how you solve them.
Hard to add anything to that because, it would also be, L&D it's not the time to save on L&D. It's actually, L&D's best time. It's the best time to work in L&D and to shine as L&D. AI is your best friend. Leverage it. Right, so it will increase the perceived value of L&D if applied correctly, and by applying it correctly, I mean, as you just said, connected to the business goals. Once the business realizes how valuable this is, how L&D helps them concretely to achieve their business goals, there won't be a discussion about saving on L&D. It's rather an investment case than anything else.